Got a great show tonight. It was a big week in the Q, and we are joined by both, not just one this time. We got both the guys from the Wildcast podcast joining us tonight. It's Sports QuaranTV. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV. Chris Dobson, and no, don't adjust your sets. We've got both the boys this week. We were able to figure it out. God love technology. I know we'd only got one or the other. We've got them both. Adam Lund, Jeremy Boucher, guys. It is great to see you. I know you guys have done some traveling. Before we get into your latest excursion through the U.S.-Canadian border, let's talk a little bit about how things are going, guys. I hope all is well. The show is running just as smooth as could be. I've been listening the last couple of weeks, going into that draft. I loved your guys' pre-draft stuff you guys have been up to. And again, for all those who, at this point don't know where to find their stuff, you must live under a rock. You can find them anywhere podcasts are to be found, and you can catch them on YouTube live as always. Love seeing your faces, boys. How the heck are you?
We're good. We're tired. I wish I would have taken Monday off, but yeah, it was a great trip from here into the United States, and we want to thank our sponsor, Alpha's Appliance Solutions, for allowing us to take the drive. Jeremy, how about you?
Yeah, I'm still kind of recovering. Those early morning,
ungodly,
4 o'clock in the morning,
yep.
Friday, 6:30 in the morning, Saturday, and another 6:30 on Sunday. Made some pretty long days. I don't think we got to bed until probably 11:30 Friday night, and probably at the same time Saturday night too. So they were very, very long days.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable event, and we got to be on media floor for the first time thanks to the Q and the Wildcats for allowing us to have some interviews during our coverage, and the boys joined us for a media roundtable on the Friday night. So it was an unbelievable experience. It was so good to have a in-person draft again. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 4 years, and hopefully it's a little closer and a lot more AC.
We're going to do something a little unique this week. We're going to throw it to you guys and let you kind of do it as if almost like you're shooting your own show on our show this week, because I think that's awesome, because there's so much to unpack here. But one of the coolest things I thought you guys did, and again, we are going to talk about the Mem Cup quickly, because some big news, of course, out of Quebec with Patrick Waugh officially leaving the organization. I'm going to get your thoughts on that. But I love the fact that you guys did a live show, the night before. You had a lot of great guests involved. You had Mavs call in. You had Pat McNeil. You had Tozer involved. Like, seeing what you guys did, I mean, looking at, I'm not going to say what you guys have created, because you've done a lot of the legwork here. And, I even saw a tweet the other day that looked like the Herdcast boys got their season tickets. So, like, podcast loving and like media stuff is alive and well in the Q. And for you guys to be able to collaborate, I mean, how cool is that?
It's we're part of the Maritimes Division podcast network, and we want to see other teams join in, other guys jump on board, and it's just a great way of meeting people around the league. We've been interviewing play-by-play Cedric Blondin from Blainville. We've had the Bay Como Dracast on our show as well. So really, it's just a fun way to get to know the super fans around the league.
Hashtag we'll report to Bay Como.
Right. Yeah, we got that picture for Jeremy there in their suite. But it's kind of what I wanted when I started this whole podcast and the Maritime Division Podcast Network. I mean, you got Lucas Holton in Charlottetown. The Herdcast boys seem to be back. I know Halifax is winning, so that we'll see.
That's right. They'll be gone when they start to lose, boys. They'll
down. But it was great to have those guys jump on, and that's. I mean, Trevor Georgie came up to us at the end of the draft and just, appreciated what we do and how we give honest coverage for this. And it's, print media is dying. And when I came from Calgary to here, and there wasn't a lot of coverage in the paper, and that's why I started this. And you kind of see it steam and gain some momentum in through Quebec. There's one in Chicoutimi, I think. There's one in, obviously, Bay Como. So it'd just be cool to have all the networks do it.
Whoa, first and foremost, let's backtrack a couple seconds. Did I hear you say something positive about the St. John Sea Dogs organization right there? Like, did I hear that? Did I hear that?
About Trevor Georgie.
Hey, Trevor Georgie is the St. John Sea Dogs organization.
That is true.
That's better. Awesome, boys. I love it. And so before we cut into your draft coverage, as mentioned, I want to get your final thoughts. I mean, obviously, I know the Mem Cup's 2 weeks old now. It's come, it's gone, but it led what happened into this draft. And I mean, going into that final game, Quebec probably played their best game of the tournament. But I think the big news coming out of that was, one, not even should say big news, because Roy made it very apparent, in the summer, this was going to be his last year head coaching anyway. So it's not like it's a big surprise. Yeah. But I guess I would love to know, like, does that leave a hole within the QMJ? I mean, that's a big name leaving the Q he's been a GM head coach in that side of things for a long time now. Moncton fans will always have a hatred for the guy because of 06 and everything that took place, which I love. That rivalry is alive and well and always will be, even though it had nothing to do with it. But in your thoughts and opinions, I mean, is that the last real big name that, come in Q? Like, who's going to fill that guy's shoes when he leaves, right?
Simon Gagne is there. He doesn't have Patrick Waugh's name, but he is an NHLer. Guy Boucher has been rumored for a few teams. Yep. He's a former NHL coach. So it does leave a big hole in the Quebec market. And that's a market that's on fire, and they understand hockey. So maybe from a recruiting standpoint, it may be difficult, but shout out to Thomas Darcy for winning the Memorial Cup with Quebec. I think it does leave a hole, but I think the bigger story is there's 7 coaches that vacancies that are in the queue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of empty benches right now, and it's Cape Breton just relieved John Goins as their head coach on Tuesday, and as much as that was talked about at the draft, and it wasn't official by the Eagles until Tuesday afternoon, and as of Tuesday evening, they've already received 15 resumes for that application and for that position. I wish mine was on the desk, but it's not. But
you're more of a GM style.
It seems like a very intriguing job.
Yeah.
It's
they're on the rise.
A team that still has not won a championship, believe it or not. But anytime you can get behind the bench of a Q team, it can lead to success.
Yeah.
So, all right. I love it. I absolutely agree. It's interesting to see now, again, of course, with all the moves that Moncton made at the draft and what looks like the direction they're trending after, some would say a successful closeout to the postseason for the Wildcats. Is Dan Lacroix safe? I mean, how does that look there? I mean, could we see a potential 8th coach on the horizon looking for a gig? Can't see it right away, but hey, it's all going to depend on how this season goes. So I think the expectations are going to be set a little high here coming in the next 2 years for Moncton. And with that segue, I want to roll into your guys' draft coverage, because honestly, boys, I can tell you, I tuned in, I watched a lot of it. Not going to sit here and tell you I watched it all, because I had my kids this weekend and I had a lot to do. But anytime I had the opportunity to, first and foremost, congratulations, fantastic work. Seeing you guys on the floor was great. Your comments about teasing, I saw Boucher, I saw your comment about teasing, looking at the back of Pat McNeil's head, and I thought that was hilarious. But overall, guys, I'm going to throw the floor to you, because I want to know, being live in the coverage, this was your first media accreditation, officially QMJHL media accredited event. How cool was it for you guys to be there? Walk us through. Plus, the Wildcats had the first overall pick. So for a podcast like yours, this is exactly, it's a dreamer's dream to be there. I want to get, first and foremost, I want to get your thoughts and experiences on what it was like to be at a live draft on the floor. 2, I want you to break down what you thought, some of the best picks of the draft were that you saw, or maybe some surprise sleepers. And 3, most importantly, how do you feel Moncton made out? I mean, there was some trades early on with the draft. I mean, Jeremy, you kept saying online, hey, we could see more than one trade. Don't get too excited. These picks might move. But overall, as Wildcat fans, how excited should the Cats be with the moves they made? It looked like they got a king's ransom for Fillion when he went the other way, and they started that, and that's what's kind of slated off. So I'm going to throw it to you guys. I want to know everything from your guys' lens. I want to see it from your point of view. I want to hear it. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, to be on the floor was an unbelievable experience. It was cool to be, like Jeremy said, to be around and see people we talk to. You just talk to them through a phone. You don't really see what they look like. And to see how the draft shakes down, you're seeing GMs move, you're seeing deals get made on the floor. We were there in 2019 on a phone, and now to be doing a live production and getting used to talking for 2.5 hours about picks. And I couldn't do it without this guy. I mean, this guy's draft knowledge is unbelievable. I had so much fun doing it. Like I said, big shout out to the Wildcats for allowing us to talk to Caleb Denoyer, allowing us to talk to Olivier Boutin. I think the best moment was Richie's random live interview. We had 1,700 people join the live. So it was a cool experience for me.
Yeah, I loved every minute of it. My favorite part was definitely the Mr. Puffs. If you've never been to Quebec and never been to a Mr. Puffs, you got to get on that. But no, getting back to the draft, it was a big one for the Wildcats. Obviously Caleb Desnoyers was the top prospect from start to finish. The name, just the relationship with the team already. That definitely helped with the recruiting process, albeit there probably wasn't a recruiting process. He was going to come here regardless.
Yeah.
But the trade to get 6th overall, I think, will go down not really as one of the best trades in Wildcats history, but one that's people are gonna look back on and say, considering what we paid to get 6th, and considering what was it Blainville paid to get 7th, just a completely different return. I mean, Moncton paid two firsts to get 6th overall, while the cost for 7th was 2 firsts and 2 seconds. So Richie managed to really make that deal overnight instead of on the draft floor, and that just makes the value and the return much better.
Yeah, and you saw, I mean, leading up to the draft, I mean, we had talked off air and on our chat, what's Fillion's value? He was going to be moving, and we both said it'd be great to get like a 2nd, early 3rd. To get a 1st, which ended up being the pick that just traveled through 1/3 of the queue, and got us Olivier Boutin, who, like we talked about with him, a lot of people don't see him. You see him in Gatineau here, and you see him in Gatineau in Moncton plays, because you're not showing up on a random Saturday night when the Wildcats aren't playing to watch Gatineau to scout their players. So to get him and to get Collard in the 1st round, I mean, you walk out of the draft with Boutin, Collard, Caleb Desnoyers, Sean Carrier out of, we'll say the 1st round, because those were the major moves. Out of that 1st round. I mean, this team just seems to be trending up, and we talked about it on our season finale Wednesday night. We tried to put a roster together, and the forward group is very packed, and it's going to be difficult. We're glad we just played GMs behind a microphone, because I don't know how Richie and Dan Lacroix and his staff are going to narrow this down, and that's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Like, you're going to get some players that were on the team last year that probably won't be back next year, because it is very loaded up front.
Or have bottom 6 roles this time.
That's it. And you still have the Euro draft to take into consideration. You still have the free agents to take into consideration, and you're probably going to see at least 1 goalie added as a free agent, probably at least 2 forwards, 1 defenseman maybe. And when you bring in quality over quantity, these are definitely players that they're coming in to win a job.
Yeah, and they've shown that when they bring in the quality, Dow, De Jong, Steinman last year, Marcel, who they ended up trading. I guess if you look at the rest of the draft for the Wildcats, they didn't have the 3rd. They did get Easton Chandler, but they took a lot of Maritimers, and your coverage Saturday and then into our season finale, you were a little shocked that a lot of the Maritime division took Maritime players. Like the Q players are usually the skill guys. The Maritime guys are the heart, depth, soul guys. But I think there's a spot for these guys, maybe not this year, but maybe in a couple of years when we're coming off, hopefully, a Memorial Cup championship as host, to be on this roster.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the Wildcats have really found a way to get these guys late in the draft that end up being, diamonds in the roughs, right? And there's a couple candidates. If you look at the list, Luke Sinclair, Anthony Waugh. What's the other? I mentioned his name on our show. Oh my goodness, he's totally. It's passing me here, but no, these are guys that these are the reasons your scouts sit in the ranks and watch players. Yeah. And I mentioned drink the bad coffee, the 5-day-old popcorn. That's their job, and they don't mind it.
Fight the roads and go like that. So looking at round 1, we did a mock draft before without trades, so that was fun because there was a lot of trades in that 1st round. We got the first 5 picks, not in order, but we got the first 5 picks. Just looking at this draft, were there a couple names that surprised you up or down the list, or maybe a team that surprised you up and down the list?
Being a New Brunswick show, I am going to touch on the Bathurst Titans here. Yeah. Their 1st round pick, Louis-Francois Belanger. Keep an eye on this kid. Maybe I sound a little ridiculous when I say this, but if they play him with really good players in Bathurst, he's going to put up Jordan Dumais-like numbers.
Yeah, and you said that earlier in our mock draft. Stuff, I guess, for me, New Brunswick show, Zach Wheeler. I mean, we had talked about him. I do color for the Flyers all year. We talked about him being a top 10 pick. You talked about him last year as a 14-year-old having that championship experience, being a top 10 pick. He almost falls out of the second round. It's just tough with a tournament every 4 years. It elevates Sean Carrier because he plays with Denway on that line, but it drops Zach Wheeler to almost the end of the second round. He's going to Blainville with his teammate Noah Collette. That was kind of a surprise for me, as well as Halifax. Every team in the Maritime Division got better. St. John got better. We got better. I'm not saying Halifax got worse, but you were just expecting a move to replace 450 or 350 goal scorers.
Just wait till the import draft. That's all I have to say about the Mooseheads. They've got something. They're going to pull something out of a hat there to make up for the lack of moves at the draft.
Halifax is going to find a way to somehow draft a top 3 NHL draft pick out of the Euro draft, just because that's how it happens in Halifax. And, speaking of import drafts too, the other interesting one is, because this has only been going on for a couple of years now, is that they had the US draft shortly thereafter the QMJHL draft. And I mean, sometimes you take a lot of flyers on these kids because of the NCAA route, which is a good option for hockey now. Like, I know we're a little biased toward the Canadian Hockey League and how that works out, but NCAA has started to play a big factor. I mean, are you familiar with the kids that the Wildcats took out of the US draft? Is that something that, do you think the odds that Richie's going to get these guys to report? Like, how does that look?
Fun story about that.
Perfect.
Fun story. Moncton's 14th round pick, Devin Niles, and I believe their second round American pick, Anthony Pelletieri. I apologize for the pronunciation there. These two guys have apparently shown zero interest in NCAA, and they're all about playing junior hockey into the CHL, to the point where they actually came to Moncton in the second round against Halifax and watched a game at the Avenir Center.
Wow, no way.
Yeah. And you saw that with St. John's second round pick, Egan Beveridge.
Beveridge, yeah. Beveridge. Kid out of New Hampshire, played for the Chicago Mission.
Yeah, he told teams in the USHL, don't draft me. I'm going to play in St. John.
Wow.
And I mean, they had to call him 6 or 7 times to just confirm you are coming here, right? And he was at the draft in Sherbrooke to get his jersey. So, and the Islanders getting their Shattuck St. Mary's USHL guy. We talked about in the season finale. Just kind of, there's a lot of influx of talent in the Maritime Division from the U.S. A couple of these Americans make it on the roster.
I absolutely love it. It's good to start seeing things trend that way for a change versus people being like, I'm going to waste a flyer on this kid who I'll use Mike Matheson as a prime example. For 3 straight years, I heard the Wildcats, someone at their roster like, no, this is the year he's going to report. Meanwhile, he's literally writing in the media, I am not leaving. I'm staying in the U.S. But no, every year we had to drink the Kool-Aid that no, Mike Matheson's coming to play D for the Wildcats. Anyways, boys, I want to thank you for that draft coverage. What a great story! You guys did a phenomenal job. I mean, I know that you said you had 1,700 live viewers. I thought that was wicked. Anyways, guys, great job. Let's move on though. We got a lot more to cover here, not a lot of time. So let's go from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League to the National Hockey League, because as we are recording this, Game 5 has not happened yet. It's happening the night as we record. So we'll just go out on some assumptions. I'll be the guy to say it. Whether it's by the time this airs, the Stanley Cup is already awarded, who knows? I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that if you are gambling, Vegas is probably who you're throwing your money on. That being said, overall, from a series perspective, are you surprised with the way it went? Did Florida just run out of gas, do you think, or is Vegas just this good?
I think Vegas is just that good. This is a team who they've surprised ever since their expansion year, right? And they're finally getting to that point where this is their second Stanley Cup Finals appearance already in 6 years. As coming in as an expansion team, you won't see that again. That's just unbelievable what they've been able to accomplish. And personally, myself, I'm with the Barbashev connection to the Wildcats. Yep, I'm going for Vegas, and other than that, that's the only reason why I've been paying attention to the series. I'd to think that he could be a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. That shows you what you can accomplish if you make the jump from Europe and come play in the Canadian Hockey League and play in the best development league out there, and you make it to the show. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I have not watched a minute. Well, I hadn't watched a minute of it till we were in Sherbrooke and Jeremy put it on for the Barbashev connection. as the Wildcast, one of the hosts, absolutely. Barbashev, you can win the Stanley Cup. Cool. The rest of them, I could care less. I really hope Florida pulls this thing out. Bobrovsky has shown that he can play lights out hockey and he can put a string of games together. And like I said on the last show with you, Chris, he was my Conn Smythe pick, whether Vegas won it or not. And I think if he gets them to Game 7, just like Jaguar got the Ducks to Game 7 against New Jersey, he's got a heck of a shot to win it. I think on the other side, it's kind of funny. San Jose traded Kiprusoff. He went on to the Stanley Cup final. He was their third-rated goalie. They traded Aiden Hill. He comes in for Bressois. That changed the Oilers series. The Oilers were getting to Bressois. That changed the series, and he's doing great things for them. So go Florida and go Barbashev. That's about it. That's about
well, it's funny. Speaking of Barbashev, we were kind of chatting offline too, which is great because I know you guys do friend of the show shout outs. And, on our side, friend of our show, Jeff Merrick, you made a comment, Jeremy, about how, they said that the trade of the season or the trade of the NHL was that Barbashev deal to Vegas. And I have to agree. I mean, fans of Ivan Barbashev in Moncton, look, when he first went to St. Louis, he played a different role down in St. Louis than he played here. I mean, he was our offensive prowess. He was our guy in Moncton, and everything he said and did, he could do no wrong. But then when he started to move, because St. Louis was so deep, and that year they won that cup where they were dead last at Christmas and came back to win, he had absorbed the North American game, started playing more of a physical third, fourth line offensive grinder type role, but he was still able to be successful. Then gets to Vegas with everything he's got, and now gets bumped into the first power play unit at times. And he comes on and he has proven exactly, you nailed it, Boosh. He has proven time and time again that exactly by making that jump from Russia, not going to the KHL, coming to the CHL, then going to the National Hockey League route, which was a dream of his, is to see the success there. I'm with you on this. I've been rooting for Vegas the whole way because of the Barbashev connection. I love it. Doing this as well as a new father. I mean, him and his wife had their first kid not that long ago. This is remarkable for him. And to see a guy who was a former Wildcat win 2 Stanley Cups in, the last 5-6 years, that's remarkable to me. I think that's incredible.
Puts him on Corey Crawford level.
Yeah.
Right. Corey Crawford is probably the most successful Wildcat with the 2 Stanley Cups. Barbashev gets his second. I mean,
that's a great question. Where does he put him?
Yeah. And I've always had that debate. When you retire numbers, which Moncton, it's enough now. It's time to retire them. Is it Garland for the stats in junior, or is it Crawford / Barbashev for the stats in the NHL?
I can't go down that Garland retirement jersey hanging ceremony not happening. I'm so irritated at this point. We've got that new building and his jersey's still not in the rafters. It bothers me, and it will likely get me banned from ever talking to the organization again.
Well, fun fact is the media guide for the Q, if you go look at it, they have Corey Crawford in there as a jersey retirement in the COVID year and last year, and it never happened. So it appears he's first, but
stay tuned.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But does Barbashev, you brought it up when we were watching it, does Barbashev bring the cup back to Moncton? He ain't going to Russia. Right?
You wouldn't think. I mean, we don't want to make this a political show, but you wouldn't think.
I would have to think Bettman's shutting that down instantly.
But does he bring it here, right?
Why not? Why not? He'd probably take it to Fredericton. I think Roger had a good reason to get him over here. I think Roger was a big piece of that, right? So maybe he'll take that cup to Fredericton. Maybe he brings it to the Avenir Center, but if that doesn't get your jersey retired, I don't know what will. I mean, the guy brought the Stanley Cup here.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Other big news kind of going through the NHL a little bit, Michael Andlauer. The only reason this story is just a quick hit topic, he's going to relinquish his minority, as a Habs fan, his minority ownership in the Habs. He's stepping into the Senators as the majority owner, which is crazy. Sportico.com broke this story out of New York City on Tuesday. Andlauer and his group paid close to $1 billion for an NHL franchise that Eugene Melnyk bought for $92 million back in 2003. And then Melnyk basically turned and burnt that franchise to the ground almost. But either way, interesting to see. I saw that when you see that the consortium that kind of took place to make that whole thing happen, wild to think that this is the world we live in today. Obviously with the PGA and Live kind of talking, we joked around a little off camera, how long is it going to be before the Saudis buy a professional sports franchise in North America? But overall, $1 billion, boys, for a National Hockey League team. I never thought I'd see it.
What happened to Ryan Reynolds and Snoop Dogg?
Yeah.
So Ryan Reynolds pulled out. I don't know, it was like 3 weeks ago. He had pulled out of his bid, but Snoop was still in, and then Snoop invited Ryan to join his consortium. And I'm like, okay. Next thing I figured Shania Twain would jump on in, and I just assumed every Canadian on the planet plus Snoop Dogg were just going to buy this franchise. And that's what I was rooting for, man. I wanted to see that happen.
Ryan Reynolds with Wrexham. We started watching that on FXX. That's
great.
Cool.
Great show. And they got promoted.
If the Senators are worth $1 billion, what are the Toronto Maple Leafs worth? What are the Montreal Canadiens worth? Like, if the
Senators,
Leafs, nothing
the
against
Leafs are worth
Senators.
The Leafs are worth garbage. That's what they're worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're not wrong though. But imagine that if the Habs or the Leafs ever went for sale, or even the Oilers or the Flames, man. Like, you know, speaking of the Flames, Jeremy, I must be pumped. You guys got your new guy in Calgary. Hoska's there. He's your new guy.
Yeah. So that's talk about a guy who paid his dues. You know, hey, that's a well-deserved promotion. As much as I would have, you know,
surprised it wasn't Mitch Love.
I'm a little surprised. Mitch Love will get his opportunity, and I would not be surprised if Brad True-Living poaches him to Toronto.
And then trades Marner and Matthews, and because he likes to trade his stars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, he has to trade somebody to Toronto. I can't.
And depending which, you could put 50 Toronto Maple Leaf fans and say who's going to be traded, and you'll get 50 different answers from that core, because everybody's got a different opinion on who needs to be dealt from that core.
No, you're absolutely right. But all that matters is our opinion, because we're the guys on TV.
Yes.
Got to talk NBA quickly. Big shout out to the Denver Nuggets, winning that title. Loved it. Jokic, obviously Jamal Murray, loved seeing him win that title. I think the best part of that whole thing was a press conference where they had to tell him that the parade wasn't until Thursday, and Jokic looked like he was just heartbroken that he couldn't just go home now.
And then he was his own meme in the corner, just drinking a beer while everybody else was partying and shooting champagne. He was just that meme standing in the corner.
Yeah, how brilliant was that? How brilliant was that? And then, of course, for those Raptors fans, big news out of Toronto, of course, and that is Fred VanVleet has officially declined his $23 million offer to return to Toronto. He will be testing free agency. I absolutely love this. And I said this last year when Aaron Judge did the same thing. I hate the Yankees, but I love when you bet on yourself. And that just kind of goes to show you did. I mean, Fred VanVleet went undrafted and just turned down $23 million. He is about to get paid. So good on you, Fred VanVleet. Another last shout out, of course.
Is Brooks Koepka winning the U.S. Open?
No, I'm rooting Rory. I think Rory's back on track. I think everything's going to be fine. Although Adam Hadwin getting hammered down there, I thought that was great. Anyways, guys, we got to go. It's been a great show. Thanks for joining us. Adam Ludd, Jeremy Boucher from the Wildcast. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We will see you next Thursday.